Hey, can I eat this?" While organizing a package sent from my hometown, Samantha asked me. When I turned around, Samantha was holding an instant cup noodles in her hand. "Have you never tried it before?" I asked, somewhat incredulously. Samantha nodded deeply in response. "Really, there are people like that. You're like a living treasure." I said this with a hint of sarcasm. "What's that supposed to mean?" Samantha puffed up her cheeks, looking a bit angry. "Go ahead," I said, feeling a bit regretful for teasing her too much. Samantha, somewhat happily, put the kettle on. It was like watching a child trying to make instant cup noodles for the first time. She was intently reading the instructions. "All you need to do is add hot water and wait for 3 minutes." I wanted to say that, but I just watched her without saying anything. "Wow, what is this? It's delicious." I never knew someone trying cup noodles for the first time in college would react like this. That's honestly what I thought. And I felt again how different the world Samantha and I lived in were. I met Samantha right after I entered college. During an orientation for new students, there was one woman who stood out. It wasn't her actions or words that made her stand out. It was her attire that was clearly different from the rest. Even I, who knew nothing about brands, could tell she was wearing something expensive. She seemed to be aware of standing out. In a group of acquaintances, she seemed a bit reserved. As the host urged us, students took their seats. I was startled, because that woman was sitting next to me. Coming from a local high school, I was the only one from my school to attend this university, so I had no one to talk to. I had nothing to do but check the pamphlet over and over. So, the conversation of the group the woman was in caught my attention without trying. "Samantha, why are you dressed like that? It's not like it's the entrance ceremony." That's how I learned the name of the woman next to me was Samantha. Samantha replied, "Well, it's an important event, so Mom told me to wear this." But still, a suit, and Calvin Klein at that, you could have dressed more casually. I listened to the woman's comments and thought she had a point. My connection with Samantha began in an unexpected way. Having been in the tennis club in middle and high school, I had decided to continue playing tennis in college. Samantha was also among the new members of the tennis club. Seeing her, I only thought, there's that woman. However, a chance to get closer to Samantha occurred during a welcome event for new students. As the event got more lively, first-year students started introducing themselves. The host called out names in order of the roster, and each called student introduced themselves in their own way. After a while, I noticed Samantha next to me becoming restless. I realized it was because her turn was coming up, having seen the roster beforehand. "My name is Samantha Johnson. Nice to meet you." Samantha spoke up to that point but then seemed at a loss for words. Unsatisfied with her soft voice, a senior student chimed in. "We can hear you." Samantha visibly flinched at that comment. It seemed she couldn't find the right words to say. The room fell silent, and everyone's eyes turned towards Samantha. She looked troubled. "I'm Justin Miller, from Nebraska. I'm a complete country bumpkin who doesn't know left from right. Nice to meet you." Though not called upon by the host, I suddenly introduced myself loudly. "No one's interested in a guy's introduction," a male senior jeered. Ignoring that, I attempted to continue my introduction. Then, the host, trying to control the situation, called the next freshman's name. "Thank you." As I sat down, Samantha, sitting beside me, whispered. "You're welcome," I replied, but it was this exchange that quickly brought us closer and led to us dating. It wasn't me who initiated it. It was Samantha. After a club activity, while cleaning up, Samantha approached me. I wanted to thank you for the other day. She wanted to thank me for the help I offered during the freshman welcome event. I had no reason to refuse, so I accepted her offer. I was surprised at where she took me. It turned out to be a French restaurant. Moreover, it seemed to have been featured in the Michelin Guide. Until then, I had never eaten such fancy food. I can't believe she's going this far to thank me for something so small. Who is she really? I wondered. But even I, nervous in my first high-end restaurant, was put at ease by Samantha's gentle demeanor. Her clear eyes, fair skin, and carefree smile made me feel captivated as the meal progressed. After that, we dined together many times. Samantha would take me to fancy places. I would take her to typical fast food restaurants. The level difference was a bit absurd, but at that time, it was a thrilling experience, exploring each other's unknown worlds, filled with lots of laughter and great fun. Eventually, Samantha began coming to my apartment every day, and we started living a semi-cohabitative life. My mom was a hardcore saver, and growing up with that, I naturally adopted a frugal lifestyle. But living with Samantha, I keenly felt the differences in our family backgrounds. One time, "What are you doing? What does it look like? Cleaning. It feels good to do it every day, right? Why don't you just hire a maid?" And another time, "Hey, what are you doing? What, can't you see? I'm cooking. Aren't you hungry? You cook by yourself. That's amazing. You're like a chef." No, it's pretty normal. But the surprises didn't stop there. Her approach to my birthday gifts, Christmas presents, anniversary dinners, and such were way beyond what I could imagine. The amount she spent. No matter how much I worked part-time, I couldn't match what she was doing. "You don't have to spend so much money." I once said that. "I'm doing this on my own accord, so Justin doesn't need to worry about it," Samantha always answered nonchalantly. "How about coming over to my place this Sunday? My dad wants to meet you." One day in our junior year of college, Samantha suddenly said this to me. I was taken aback. Meeting her father, what did that mean? I knew Samantha was the daughter of a local construction company president and that she had an older brother by 2 years. But I had never met her parents. As I had started to think about a future with Samantha, I saw this as a good opportunity to get to know her parents and agreed to visit her family home. The day I first visited Samantha's family home, I hesitated in front of the building. It was a far more magnificent mansion than I had imagined. "What are you planning to do from here?" Samantha's father, a stern-looking man, asked me that morning, sensing my nervousness. "I'm serious about continuing my relationship with Samantha." My voice was shaky as I replied, "No, what I want to know is not that. I want to know how you envision your future with Samantha." He probably wasn't fond of beating around the bush. Samantha's father asked me directly. "I plan to get a stable job, and once I'm settled, I hope to marry her in the future." Samantha looked surprised at first, then blushed and smiled at me. "I see, understood." Her father said nothing more after that. "You passed my dad's test, it seems," Samantha murmured on our way back from her home. I was puzzled, and she explained. "Dad brought out his favorite brandy, didn't he? He only drinks that on very special occasions. That he shared it with you means he's accepted you." Her words sobered me up completely. After graduating, I got a job at a public employment security office. Wanting to do something helpful for others, I consulted with seniors and career advisors before deciding. And in my 3rd year of working, I married Samantha. In hindsight, I suppose the root of all problems was my ignoring the obvious differences in our lifestyles. And it wasn't just with Samantha. I felt it with a wedding present from my father-in-law, too. That present was an apartment. Apparently, it was a property developed by my father-in-law's company, with the top floor of a 20-story building prepared for us. I repeatedly declined, saying it was beyond our means. However, my father-in-law told me, "You just need to become a person worthy of living in this apartment." I had no reply to that. Making the apartment in my father-in-law's name was the most I could resist. Samantha quit her job and became a homemaker. Though she worked at her father's company after graduating, I doubt she really did much there. As a homemaker, Samantha's lifestyle hardly changed from before our marriage. I made it a routine to call Samantha when leaving work. It was to encourage her to return home. Yet, she would return home around the same time as me, often even later than I did. Every day, she comes home with her hands full of ready-made dishes. These aren't bought on the way home. She brings them from her parents' house. "Every day you don't need to go that far. I once said that." Samantha replied casually. "But it's given to me, so it's okay. I'm not causing anyone any trouble." After several such exchanges, I stopped bringing up the topic of meals with Samantha. There was no sign she did any housework either. Concerned, I once asked her about it. "It's fine. A helper comes to take care of it when asked," Samantha said without any sign of embarrassment. When we were dating, it was my place, so Samantha couldn't just let anyone in. But after we got married and she became a housewife, I thought she would naturally do the housework and take care of the home. However, the significant difference in values made me gradually feel distance from Samantha. One day, I asked Samantha how much we were spending each month. The amount she mentioned left me shocked. It was way beyond my salary. "I'd like us to manage within the range of my salary each month," I requested. "Really? Why? We can just get the extra from my parents. There's no need to worry about it." I lost my temper at her words. "We need to live within our means. When will you graduate from depending on your parents? Consider my position a bit." Samantha seemed unable to understand my feelings. "Why? It's my family, after all. What's wrong with relying on them a bit? My parents are happy with that, too. It's a matter of degree. In your case, it's just too much." Our arguments continued without reaching a resolution. At one point, during a heated argument, Samantha shouted, "I don't want to live such a miserly life. If you don't like what I'm doing, let's just get a divorce." "Okay, I understand," I agreed. That happened 1 year after we got married. The next day, I got a divorce form, filled it out, stamped it, and presented it to Samantha. Then I left the house. I was glad the apartment was in her father's name. Back to living alone after a long time, I felt a bit lonely but also enjoyed the freedom. I reverted to the frugal lifestyle I had since I started living alone in college. The divorce was finalized. And about 10 years later, "I'll do anything. Please give me a chance." While working, I thought I heard Samantha's voice from a distance. I couldn't see her because of the partition, but it sounded like her. "I need money right away, so a day job would be best." It definitely sounded like her. "Excuse me for a moment," I told the client, pretending to have work, and stood up. Standing in front of the seat where the voice came from, I saw the client's face. I was taken aback. It was indeed Samantha. I knew she would come, I thought, seeing her. But I couldn't change my assignment, so I returned to my seat. After finishing with the client, I hurriedly stood up. Then I looked around for the seat where Samantha had been sitting. But I couldn't find her. I went outside. "Samantha," I called out almost instinctively. Samantha, recognizing my voice from behind, turned around hesitantly. "Justin, you're still working here?" She looked embarrassed. It was unclear whether it was due to her shabby clothes or the fact that we were meeting at the employment office after such a long time. "It's been a while. Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. We spoke briefly, then silence followed. Do you have time this evening? After work, let's talk for a bit, I asked. Surprised, Samantha nodded. I didn't have anything particular in mind to talk about. Honestly, I didn't know what to say during this unexpected reunion with my ex-wife. But seeing Samantha, I couldn't just ignore her. After work, Samantha was waiting at the entrance of my workplace. We then went to a nearby cafe. It's been 10 years, I remarked, to which Samantha nodded. I didn't ask why she was looking for a job. I didn't need to. I had an idea why she was at the employment office. Then Samantha started talking. My dad's company went bankrupt. I was aware of this. Some of her father's former employees had come to me for consultation. I'm sorry for belittling your lifestyle, calling it poor. I was the foolish one. It took me until this age to understand what you meant by living within our means. Losing everything after Dad's company collapsed. I now painfully realize I'm someone who can't do anything on her own. Samantha carefully chose her words as she spoke. She mentioned that her father's apartment, where we lived, was sold. Now she's living in a one-bedroom apartment with her family of 3. Her father had become depressed, and her mother was taking care of him. Samantha's brother, apparently fed up with the family, had left and was untraceable. Samantha, with no work experience, was struggling to find a regular job and was barely making ends meet for day labor. Thinking about it now, it's unbelievable. Spending tens of thousands on a single meal. How many days of work does that equate to? I almost couldn't believe this was the same Samantha I knew 10 years ago, considering her speech and attitude. By the way, I've been trying out some of the saving tips you told me about when we were dating. Cucking is surprisingly fun. Even a little bit of saving makes a big difference. I'm sorry for mocking it back then, Samantha said, playfully smiling and clasping her hands in front of her mouth. We then talked a lot about saving techniques. The opposite personalities we had when dating were exciting and fun. But spending time with her now, sharing similar values and thoughts, gave me a sense of comfort and happiness I hadn't felt before. When leaving the cafe, as I was about to pay, Samantha said, "Let me pay, I've got it." No, I invited you, but you listened to me. It's only fair. It must have been a bit of a hassle for the cashier, but we had that typical argument at the register. Okay, then, let's split it, Samantha suggested, and I couldn't help but smile. The old Samantha would never have budged in situations like this, usually just leaving a $100 note and walking out of the store. So, hearing the word "split the bill" coming from her was unexpectedly surprising to me. On our way to the train station, something caught my eye. "Just wait here for a minute," I said, and asked Samantha to wait for me in a nearby park. A few minutes later, "Here, this is for you." I handed Samantha an envelope. What is this?" "It's $5,000. This should last you a few months, right? Day laboring only leads to living day by day, and that's no good. This is for your living expenses until you find a stable job. You don't have to pay it back." "No, I can't accept such a large amount," Samantha protested, but I couldn't help smiling at her words. "Don't say that. Remember all the gifts you gave me back then. Consider this a return favor, and please accept it." Hearing this, Samantha burst into tears. "I will definitely work and pay you back. Thank you, Justin." After that, we occasionally met up. Sometimes, I gave her job advice and recommended companies that hired inexperienced workers and had good reputations. Eventually, Samantha secured a job as a factory worker at a place I recommended. When I checked with President Thompson about how she was doing, he said, "Oh, she's a great addition, a bit naive, but she's eager to learn and work hard. The long-time workers, especially the older ladies, find her adorable. Since Samantha joined, there's a brighter atmosphere around here." Hearing this made me very happy. Then, a year later, Samantha handed me something. It was an envelope containing $6,000. What is this? It's the money I borrowed, and a little extra as thanks. I didn't need to use half of what you lent me, but it was a huge help. Thank you so much, Samantha said. Money really changes people, I mused aloud. Samantha looked puzzled. I was thinking about the old Samantha. Back then, she didn't appreciate the value of money because she never lacked it. Now, Samantha, having earned money through her own hard work, understood its importance. But deep down, she was always kind-hearted. Seeing this, I thought, maybe with the Samantha of now, we could start over. Of course, having been divorced once, I wasn't sure if a fresh start was possible. But I didn't need an immediate answer. We would spend more time together, and this time, without looking away, I would slowly consider our future.